Hey, it's Lee Waddell, original Ghostface. You're tuned into the Mouth of Madness podcast.
So you are afraid of something. We all go a little mad sometimes. You don't know what death is. Very afraid.
Welcome to the madness. We are the Mouths of Madness, your new favorite podcast for horror movie reviews. We're coming to you live tonight, back at the Dungeon of Doom. This is our episode 20.
Hey guys, before we get into this new episode, I think, we've kind of had a hard summer. Kevin, you've had an unfortunate encounter with a firework.
Yes.
Dan, you've passed through the anus of a shark, and
have to
Logan,
keep reminding me.
Logan, I don't even want to mention what's happened between you and Billy.
But
I think we need to take some time to sit back, relax, and enter into Bearclaw's forest meditations and do a little quick guided meditation. I think it will really help us align our chakras and bring us to a very complete and mindful episode of our podcast.
I like that idea, Bearclaw.
I'll give it a shot, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so if everybody could just get on the floor and just keep your back straight, as if there was a small string attached to your head. Just make sure you're breathing correctly. Breathe in, breathe out. All right, now everybody breathe in. I want you to imagine all of your anger and all of your problems. And I want you to take all of that, and I want you to put that anger, I want you to form it into a person. And then I want you to take a fucking hook and jam it through that person and into their skull. Drive them right through them. And breathe out. Breathe in. Now, I want you to imagine your insecurities and take a fucking axe to their head. Chop, chop, chop. Just keep chopping. Just keep going until it's nothing but a bloody pile of and breathe in. Now I want you to imagine everything in your life that's not going the way that you want it to go. I want you to put it on a fucking log splitter. And I want you to pull that handle and slowly watch as that blade goes towards its head and decapitates all of it, and breathe out. All right, guys. I think we're really centered. We'll continue with the podcast, but we'll come back to some breathing exercises at the end and some stretching.
Thank you, Bearclaw. That was...
Thank you. I think it really is going to help the energy in the room.
That was something. As I was going to say, this is our episode 20 on the 2024 In a Violent Nature. My name is Kevin, and man, I'm feeling my chakras released, Bearclaw. I can't even talk, man. I'm feeling in a good state of mind right now. Dan, how about you? How's it going over there?
Good vibes, all positive.
Good vibes over here. My chi has been aligned, and I'm in the company of loved ones, and I really would just like to let you guys all know you are my number one motherfuckers.
Yes.
Oh, feels so good to finally hear for so long.
How about you, Bearclaw, over there? How are you doing?
I'm feeling at peace. I'm feeling ready. I'm feeling ready to discuss this movie, A Violent Nature.
Logan, how about you, our youngest member of Madness? How's it feeling?
I don't know. I kind of fell asleep during all that, so I don't know. It felt like you guys got something out of it. I kind of just fell asleep. It was nice to meditate.
The folly of youth.
Old people.
I know that there are a lot of other great horror movie podcasts out there, but what separates us from the others is that we're going to be giving you the older versus younger generation perspective. Myself, Dan, and Bearclaw are all in our late 30s, while my son Logan is 18. So this is the clash of the generations. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to us on your favorite audio platform and YouTube. If you're enjoying your descent into madness, we would really appreciate it if you would rate us 5 stars and leave a review. You can find us on Instagram at mouths.of.madness. We have a great YouTube channel with our exclusive video podcast, Straitjacket Talk, and we just did a new review on Evil Dead 2013, so go check that out, and that's at Mouths of Madness. Finally, email Bearclaw and let him know what your favorite meditation songs are, and that's at thepaddedroom@outlook.com.
Yeah, let me know whether you're more of a sounds of the forest or perhaps more of a listening to the crystal bells. There are many different types of meditation music you can enjoy, and I'd really appreciate if you told me about them in an email.
I prefer waterfalls myself. It's time to embrace the madness and let you all know what we've been up to. Well, for me, like I said, we just did a Straitjacket Talk review on Evil Dead 2013, so I just watched that. I actually haven't seen it since 2013, I think, when it first came out. So it was a fun watch. I highly recommend it because it is a pretty terrifying movie.
It's definitely in my like top 5 of like the 2000s. Like I was talking about with Cabin in the Woods, like it's in that collection there with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like we talked about in that review, there really wasn't a whole lot of good from that time period. But
Yeah.
I think this is one of those good.
It's another like standout.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's funny too, because I think it's like one of the last remakes they attempted that actually went really, really well. If you think about it, like
Yeah.
a lot of the big IPs, like that was one of the last ones to get remade, and it was actually kind of successful.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're good or not. It just matters, successful wise. Yeah.
This one, though, is good and it's successful.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. Yeah, I liked it. I'm surprised it didn't go anywhere though.
They ended up making the second one, right? Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, but it feels
totally,
it's not connected.
yeah.
It's like more
It's
anthology.
totally- it's anthology style. It's
Yeah.
totally disconnected.
And
so-
it came a lot later than
8 years.
Yeah.
So
And I really like the actress from that 2013 one. I thought she
Yes,
was very good. And that's like
yeah.
the last movie she appeared in, and then,
Really?
or at least that I know of. I mean,
that's pretty crazy, man.
yeah.
Well, I definitely recommend seeing it if you haven't. Also, I just finished a book called Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar, which I thought was really good. Good horror read. So if you're looking for a horror read to get you ready for spooky season, Clown in a Cornfield, I thought it was really good. It's a little slow going at first, setting everything up, but then the payoff I thought was done really well. Kind of some Stephen King vibes in there, which is cool. So I definitely recommend checking it out. How about you, Dan? What have you been up to?
I've been kind of going down more of a YouTube rabbit hole this time with music. I've been coming across some really weird, eccentric, experimental music. I've discovered a couple bands that I like a couple of their songs, but like it's really, really hard accessible music to really get behind. Some bands that I like to mention are like The Garden, 100 Gex, Moonwalker, and Ancestors. If you need like a palate cleanser from what you're normally listening to, like give those a shot if you'd like. In addition to that, excited for the NFL season, started today. The Mouths of Madness, we are part of a pick'em league where we pick teams. So I always look forward to doing that with you guys, and I'm definitely winning.
The
this
real
year.
horror movie is my pick sheet.
Yeah.
Not a good day today.
Plus, this year we're playing for keeps now.
Are we really doing the Denny's breakfast gift card?
Winner gets the Denny's breakfast
man.
gift card.
Oh, that's an inside joke that no one's gonna get.
Nope.
Oh,
They'll appreciate
it was the
though.
greatest joke I've told in a while.
That's it. That's that.
Instead of a Denny's
highlight.
gift card. Well, I don't tell a lot of good jokes. And that's what you can expect here at the Mouths of Madness. This year we're playing for money. $100. Or not $100.
No, we're each
but-
putting in $10. So
about $100.
yeah, some money to be had on top of bragging rights.
Bragging rights.
How about you, Bearclaw? What are you up to?
Well, so I have been really getting into the spooky season mood of things and been trying to catch up on some horror movies, some more recent release horror movies. I saw Longlegs.
Oh.
Great addition to the Nicolas Cage horror universe,
To the
the
Nicolas
CHU,
Cage.
CHU, if you will. And
Yes.
I'm gonna have to insist on at some timeline we need to do a Cage horror universe episode.
Yes,
I think
sir.
it's necessary.
Yeah,
We need to
we
put them
need
all
to di-
together.
we need to dissect.
I need to bring this all together, and we need to examine it very closely.
We need to do a full timeline of each.
Yep, I want a
movie.
timeline.
And we need to
And
We're
rank.
gonna try. We need a universal theory of Cage
Yep.
that connects the dots between all of the movies.
What do we start off with?
I mean, there's so much.
I think we got to go with Mom and Dad.
There's going to be some interesting content, but Long Legs on its own is a interesting movie. I think it's worth watching. We might talk about it, so I won't go too much into it, but I think it's definitely worth the watch. So, Logan, what have you been up to?
Doing a lot of things. As I've said before, it's been my tradition for the last years to read a book each and every month. Trying out horror this time. Got Cape Fear by John D. McDonald. I really like it. It's a great book. It's terrifying to say the least. Like, it literally like paints a picture of just paranoia and the unknowing haunt of just someone you don't know who's there. Basically paranoia. It's a great psychological thriller. It's not really horror, but it's definitely psychological thriller. I really like it. It's one of my top, maybe my top 5, not my top 3. Other than that, I mean, I did just watch Jurassic Park. I gotta mention that because it's
Life finds a way.
life finds a way.
I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
That's my terrible
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum. I think Jurassic Park for me for a while wasn't like a great. Like I always thought about it like it's one of those great movies, and then I watched it again, and I was like, oh damn man, this movie's so damn good. Like it is in my top 3 favorite movies. It's
an
so
all-time.
good.
It's an enjoyable watch.
It's so enjoyable. Like I would watch like a couple times. Like I would watch it again right now.
It's that Spielberg movie. I put on Spielberg movies when I just want to feel, when I just want to like go on an adventure. I just want to go with Indiana Jones somewhere.
Indiana Jones is my favorite movie. And the Goonies, too. Goonies are awesome.
Goonies is great.
Yeah, not the Gooners, though.
Oh man, was that it for you?
Yeah.
Very different movie.
Have you ever seen that movie? I think I downloaded the wrong movie. This isn't Goonies, where's Sloth?
Well, because this is a newer movie, we want to do a spoiler warning before we get into our review. So if you haven't seen In a Violent Nature yet, go check it out. It just became available on Shudder, and come back and listen to our review. And if you don't care about seeing the movie first before listening to us,
That's on you.
then grab a beer. Oh man.
Listen on your own discretion.
Then grab a beer, pull up a chair, hold on to your straitjacket tight, and let's dive into the madness. We watched In a Violent Nature from 2024. It was written and directed by Chris Nash. Now, this is another Canadian movie. Logan loves Canadian movies, don't you?
Oh, God, don't
the
even get me
Canadians.
started. It felt Canadian. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to get a Canadian approval by me.
I think we should also do Canadian horror movie episode where we just
Oh
go
my
into the
God.
discussion of that.
I think you're gonna find there's a lot of Canadian horror movies. It's much cheaper to film in
You
Canada.
can do that with our listen. You can do that with our editor / straitjacket talk host Nathan, because I'm not doing that.
Oh, you're stepping
out.
out for that.
Doesn't work for him, brother.
It doesn't work for me, brother.
Now, I struggled to find the correct budget for In a Violent Nature. I saw reports that it was made for under $500K, and I saw some that it was made for $3 million. Regardless, do you guys know how much it made at the box office? Bearclaw, what do you think?
Oh, how much it made at the box office? Well, they're making a second one, so it had to do something big. I'm gonna go with 60 million.
Logan.
Wow. I was gonna go bare knuckles. I was gonna go like I didn't know so I really didn't do anything off of this movie. We kind of just watched it, and I was like, eh. So I didn't really do my research.
We're getting spicy Logan all episode. Is what you're saying.
I'm gonna go with a solid now because of that. Like I was gonna go so bare. I was gonna go like 500K. That's as far as I was gonna go.
Well, if you want to
I'm
go 500K,
still gonna go
all right,
with it.
500K, all right. Dan, you got quite the wide range.
Quite a wide berth.
Wow.
Oh, man. You know what? No, I'm going to give Bearclaw the wide berth. I'm going to go 120 million. I'm going to get weird and go the other way.
Holy God, this is the biggest stretch I've ever seen in my life.
Dude, if I win based
This is the
on
Grand
nothing-
Canyon. Well, In a Violent Nature made $4.5 million.
Wow, way
You
off.
guys went so over.
Wow, way off.
So I guess the winner
Technically,
goes Logan.
because I went in so fair.
It only made that much money. Well, it's got a long life ahead of it.
I'm very
It hasn't
surprised
had
to
the
be-
life.
It's quite
only this
impressive. You're
year
like the
it's
only
made that
person to
much.
wager $1 and win
So
The
it-
Price is Right.
You're right. It's like betting $1 on The Price is Right. Oh my goodness.
$1.99. Oh God, Jesus.
Now, currently on Rotten Tomatoes, In a Violent Nature has a 78% critic score and a 45% audience score. So this is certified fresh, and it's kind of weird that the audience and critics are pretty on opposite ends of the spectrum on this one.
I think there's a reason for that. I gotta be honest with you.
Well, this was Bearclaw's pick for an episode.
Yes, it was.
So, Bearclaw, why did you choose In a Violent Nature for us to review?
Because he hates people.
Yep. Big time.
Because I hate you all. No, this movie was kind of interesting. So really all that I saw before I chose this movie was the scene where the girl gets hooked in the head through her, gets threaded through herself, I guess would be the best.
Yeah.
Would be the best way of putting it. Like,
Threaded
the
through
best way.
herself.
threaded
yeah.
through herself. I saw that YouTube clip and I knew that we had to talk about this movie. I didn't know anything about the movie at this point when I had picked this movie. And it has only been an investment that has paid exponential dividends over time because this movie was just absolutely magical. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed
That's one
it.
way to put it.
I think there's a reason that the critics enjoyed it more than maybe the average audience member did. I think you have a lot of choices with this film and how you engage with this film. I don't think it forces your engagement, but I think if you engage with it, there's a lot there to engage with. But if you choose to kind of see it as, I would kind of compare it to, there's a video game called Death Stranding by Hideo Kojima. If you play that video game, you could reduce it down to you are a UPS man who's going to deliver packages, and it's a walking simulator. Or it could be, if you really engage with the game, I think it could be one of the greatest things that that has come out, and it has a lot of depth and a lot of interesting story and new directions it goes in. So there's a lot to love there, but it's going to be a lot of the choices I think are going to be how you engage with this movie, and I fully engage with it. It's a scathing criticism, I think, in some ways of the slasher movie. And if you think about how the movie is shot, the perspective of the movie and the scenes and even some of the walking scenes of the movies are a new point of view on the slasher movie that is both, I think, critical and at the same time kind of finds some of the best parts of slasher movies and really highlights them. So a movie that I think deserves to be talked about, deserves to be examined, and I think it's going to be a real cornerstone of horror, and especially kind of elevated horror. I would say this is an elevated slasher film, and that may be why I love it. I think the critics and people who are kind of very much into horror movies and into slasher movies and understand what they're trying to do here are going to have a much different opinion of this movie than somebody who goes to watch it because they heard somebody got their head chopped in a bunch of times.
Do you think, though, that was kind of a good selling feature for them to release that quote unquote yoga threading scene on YouTube?
I think that was an interesting scene to release on YouTube and I think it was wise of them to do so because it showed the gratuitous nature of the film, but it also, there was subtlety in it from the point of view and how you saw what was happening going on.
Gotcha.
So I think that there was a lot to it. Yes, there was gratuitous violence. Yes, it was a very silly storyline about a zombie, killer and everything like that. But at some level, they're all kind of like that. So just the new perspective of this movie. I think everything in this movie was put in a place for a reason, and I loved it.
Wow. I like it, Bearclaw.
Now I'm a picky man, and I think what it does very well is it kind of goes into that elevated horror, but also turns it kind of into like its own kind of genre of movie, you know? Like, I feel like even though it is elevated horror, it kind of has like this little story they kind of tell, even though it's really not like every character means anything. It's mostly like the Friday the 13th movies where it's like, oh yeah, these people are just here to get thrown around and get put through like terrible deaths. But like, what I do really like is how they kind of tell like a little bit of a story, especially towards the end, of like really explaining the whole title of the movie, what it means, how it's going, and how we as the viewers are supposed to perceive what is happening in the movie in real time, while also trying to like explain the unexpected, you know? We're not kind of people that can explain like things like this. How movies like with zombies and like different like story threads all connect in one and also make it this like brutal, and it's very alarming how like good some of the parts in this movie are because of how like the word indie comes up a lot. Like, it is very indie. But like what I love about this movie is it just looks so much like its own movie. It's very much in its own perspective, and it doesn't like take away from anything, and it's kind of not taking from other movies and just making it their own, like a lot of horror movies do. This movie does a lot of things that are very much like horror movies. Like, they have similar plot lines.
I think it pays homage to a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, it plays homage. Like, they definitely give a lot of like that away, and like a lot of the stances and a lot of the kills and a lot of the overall mystery of the kill. Or other than that, like, it's kind of perfect in a way where it kind of just leaves you with a little bit more to be desired.
This is a pretty original, I think, concept.
Yeah.
I know there's movies that have done maybe some similar things, but the way this does it feels very original. But being original doesn't mean it's good, though. Dan, what are your thoughts on In a Violent Nature?
I was just going to say, like, I don't know what you guys are talking about in the sense that it does something. I mean, it does something different, but I feel like we've watched kind of the same movie almost for the last 4 episodes. It's just different nuanced execution. It's the same story, just a nuanced execution. It's an awesome perspective, just the over-the-shoulder perspective of the killer. I think there are some things that work for it, and I think there's things that don't work about it. Like, the things that I love about it is like when Johnny is trudging through the woods and he will hear activity in like his general vicinity, and then he goes into stalker mode. Like, he's like out there hunting, seeing like what's going on, or how we get backstory or exposition information just through like eavesdropping in on the conversations. For me, when it doesn't work, or when we get like those long drawn out scenes, like after Aaron's death, Johnny is carrying the corpse all the way to the ranger station. And then like after Johnny breaks into the ranger station, in the extreme concentration and like deliberation of what sharps he's going to take and how he's going to get that firefighter mask, it kind of drags a little bit. And like, I notice myself like getting easily distracted with other things, like if in like these like lull moments. When it comes to like the blood and guts, I mean, this movie delivers. There are a lot of unique gory takedowns in this one, which I'm sure we'll get to later. Amazing special effects by Steven Kostanski, who's responsible for 2 movies in our horror movie deep cuts that we'll probably be covering later, Psycho Gorman and The Void. Chris Nash, who's the director and writer of this movie, had roles in those films and was like the set creature effects supervisor for Psycho Gorman. So like, these guys are thick as thieves, and I would say like they're an interesting tandem, and they add something awesome to the genre of horror in itself. These guys are special effect guys by nature, so all the gore and realistic like violence, they're gonna deliver it for you, and I think this movie does just that.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
The drums are rolling. What do you think of this movie, Kevin?
So yeah, I think this movie is very original in a lot of its ideas. I think that the way it was shot was amazing. I actually like the 4:3 aspect and how it was that tall, and it really showed the trees and Johnny walking through and some of those scenes where he's just walking. I mean, I kind of wish this was a visual podcast or a video podcast so you could see some of that, but it's really amazing to look at. Saying that though, there's a lot of walking, too much walking.
I think sometimes it's like it's okay because like we can hear things in the background and like we can like pick up on different things like when he's in the woods, but like there's a lot of scenes where he's literally just walking to the next scene, like just like, and it's like 5 minutes of just walking.
And I think this is where, going back to Bearclaw's point he was making earlier about the divide between critics and viewers.
Mm-hmm.
I watched this movie 4 times.
Oh.
First time, I hated it.
Oh, okay.
Because I was not anticipating the tempo of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
After I saw it a second, and after I saw it the third time, I started getting comfortable with the tempo and was like, oh, okay, this is an hour and 48 minutes and it moves like hour and 48 minutes. The first time I saw it, it moved like it was 4 fucking hours.
Yeah.
And I looked at the time and I was like, it was only roughly 90-minute movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I just think for me, I'm not saying don't put in the walking scenes. I like the walking scenes, but trim them down a little bit.
It's an adjustment to the tempo for the tempo we're used to.
Yeah, man, maybe you're right. Yeah, and like Bearclaw said at the beginning, this is challenging you to really get invested in the movie, like bring yourself in.
I'll defend the walking and those moments in between because they're almost, it kind of does 2 things. One, if you really want to see it from the perspective of this zombie killer horror person. I mean, imagine Halloween 1978 shot the same way as this movie.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the scenes is just going to be Michael Myers just standing behind a bush.
Standing at
by
his
a
window.
car, walking, standing at the window. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, and then you're kind of unsure of like his goals. I also see some of the walking as some of the criticism of some horror movies in that, honestly, I'd rather watch Johnny walking than like Friday the 13th's character development, which didn't exist. It was just like a bunch of nonsense about people who were going to get killed anyways. So why do I would have honestly rather watched Johnny's walking than learning about the cardboard cutout teenagers that are going to be killed.
I'm also going to back you up here. I feel like if they did away with a lot of the walking scenes or they kind of cut it down, well, then they're not fully committing themselves to the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with that. I was thinking about Halloween. Wouldn't it be funny to like be with Michael Myers when he's like shoving Linda in that closet? Like, get in there. Like, I gotta.
Or he threw what's her name in the washer machine in 6.
6, yeah. Get in that washing machine.
Well, but like
Michael Myers does laundry.
Well, I'm trying to figure
God, you
out
didn't
like
even
if he
clean
should
these
put it on like colors or
can't quite make her
press.
fit. He's getting upset. He's like kicking it. Like, well, but I mean, like that's kind of the moments that they commit to. Like, I think Dan's point is good. They committed to it. Like when he was like, well, I can't leave this body around because that's probably gonna, like, his thoughts are simplistic, but he's just like, all right, well, I got to get a fire hood on or something. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you're both saying, and I think that is such a valid point, and you're right, they committed to it. For me, though, like, I don't know if it makes an interesting movie, though, to watch, because, and this is my opinion, not Friday the 13th, the movie we just watched, but the tropes in especially slasher movies are the tropes for a reason. Like, yes, they are overdone, I get that, but they're there because there's a certain structure that works generally for most audiences, right? When you're with characters and you see, like, this movie didn't show you a lot of scenes with characters where they were having fun, they were partying, they were having sex, they were drinking, they were throwing, each other into shit, they were playing strip Monopoly, they were having bad enchiladas and ending up in the porta potty.
You're right. Making coffee for 40 minutes.
Instant coffee.
Listen, I think Friday the 13th
Don't
is a
knock
bad
instant
example.
coffee.
It's funny because I was watching In a Violent Nature and I was like comparing it boring wise for me to Friday the 13th and which one I preferred. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do that.
But I mean, to your point though, could you even make that movie or that movie that isn't this movie? Because this, to me, this represents both
you're
a
right.
criticism and a step forward for slashers, which I think is good news because I think we're entering some type of weird horror renaissance, and like this is like a step forward for the slasher.
No, it's not. That's where you lose me on.
Yeah.
You cannot. There is nowhere to go when it comes to these horror movies. You have your tropes. You have where you're going, and they have a ceiling with horror movies. They never can reach a certain level where they're like, oh man, they're gonna get better and better and better. Horror movies to me, especially with this one, campy movies like this. We've watched 4 of them in a row. Like Dan said, they haven't changed. A bit.
Just to moderate a little bit what you said, I don't think it's horror movies necessarily that have a ceiling. I think it's slasher movies.
Slasher movies have a like bona fide. So horror movies, I think it's different. So like for me, psychological thrillers, like those kind of movies, are like elevated horror, or like stuff in that kind of realm, kind of like the sci-fi kind of horror. That can evolve, that can change, that can keep getting weirder and weirder, and maybe even get better. Slashers just have a certain like tempo or a certain like number of bodies that are just getting thrown in just to get killed. There's never going to be a certain thing that's different.
Isn't this movie the argument against you in that? This movie's very existence is counter to your argument that slashers can't change. Who thought of just the camera always being on the killer behind him?
I mean, I think they can change, but to what Logan was saying earlier, this has a ceiling. Like, I don't think we're gonna see a ton more of these type
so
of
much
movies.
exposition.
I think maybe if I can flesh out Logan's idea a little bit or help him out, maybe it's the formatting of a slasher. Like it's the same format. Sure, you can throw a different glamour on it, like give you a different perspective, like the killer's perspective, instead of being in the shoes of a victim. However, the same format and story is still being played out over time.
Yeah.
Its innovation is not in its storytelling by nature. It is, to your point, style is what makes slashers different.
It gives it a little bit more polish, but it doesn't elevate it. It doesn't improve it. It makes it look better on paper, but then you keep on going back to the same stuff. And I think what this movie does well is, yes, you're right. This movie looks gorgeous. Like, that camera work is flawless.
Cinematography is amazing.
It is amazing. It is the best part of this movie. There's nothing else that comes like close to the cinematography in this movie. Like, you can try to argue with me, but you're never going to make it because the cinematography is beautiful. It's like the best shot, like, slasher.
So does that again go
Innovate.
back to
But
Bearclaw's point of, does it innovate in a way by adding all this
improving
beautiful
on the
cinematography?
picture, but it's not improving on the story. It's not making me go,
No, but is it improving the quality of the movie? I mean, story isn't everything in a movie. I love story and all that. Like, it's big, huge, important part of it.
You gotta make, what we do on this podcast is we review movies and we try to tell you like what we like in movies and what we don't like. Mm-hmm. And I think what we do best is we definitely talk about the pros and cons of each movie. And I think with this movie, there is a lot more cons than pros. There's a big pro, but with a lot of cons. And unfortunately, the cons just over like stimulate for the
I agree
pro.
with you. I think to throw it out there, this is the toughest movie we've watched so far.
Yes.
For me to rate. Because there's a lot of things I really love there's also a lot of things I really don't like at all. So it's like, I think the second hardest was the Leprechaun.
Are you kidding me?
But for much different reasons. But what I want to talk about though is with the slasher elements in this movie in itself, in the story you had mentioned, because we've come to realize in slasher movies the story is never really an important
Secondary.
thing.
They don't even care about it
And
that much.
They're
in this
never
movie.
gonna.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. They're never gonna care about the story until a slasher cares about the story. It's never gonna change. It's never gonna evolve.
Well, I mean, there are slashers that do care about the story, but I think
Leslie Verne cares about the story, you know?
Yeah, there's a couple ones that care about the story, but this one I think too is kind of having a commentary also on these characters don't matter that the killer is going after. They don't. And they kind of show you that throughout, where they give you some dialogue from the characters and we can try to piece together, but it's like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like this.
Too much exposition they give away, and the characters you just don't care about. But like, if I'm saying this, like, if the characters cared more and they actually acted,
Okay, you two, we get it. Your dicks are fucking huge, and you're not compensating for anything.
and they gave like good dialogue and made me care about them,
Fill me up, Aaron. Fill me up, Aaron.
this movie would be great.
But they weren't the story. They weren't the main focus of the film. The main focus of the film was Johnny.
Yeah.
You know, and like he was what the film was about, and it followed him from his awakening. You know, how cool was it to watch the kill? He didn't just show up magically.
Yeah.
He crawled out of the ground. That was a neat scene, I thought. Like the pipe scene, taking it out of his head, like crawling out of the ground.
I was waiting for the lightning bolt to hit the pole, a la Jason in Friday, the 13th part 6.
And how cool was it when the park ranger was like, "Oh, well, we put him in the ground, or my father put him in the ground 10 years ago."
And Johnny got up 10 years later, and he killed the people that I cared about. So I did what my dad did, and I put him in the ground. This time I'll make sure he stays there.
You have to put him in this soil. It's the only soil that'll hold him. And like, of course things go wrong.
And in the opening scene where like Johnny walks up where the ranger is talking with, I think his name is Chuck. And you notice when the ranger drives away, Johnny
He looks
initially it looked like he was going after the ranger.
Well, and he holds a picture of the ranger when he's in the ranger station getting his fire mask and stuff. You see him holding a picture of the rangers, and you're like, why is he holding a picture of the rangers? And then
they tell you later
why he's holding the picture of the
You know
rangers.
what's crazy that I think happened is he recognizes him in like the very first scene, and then he looks at the picture and he's like, damn it, I knew that was him.
So is this a revenge story then?
Kind of.
Well, yeah, I mean, they stole the man's necklace.
Where? Did you get that necklace? In the old fire tower.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
that.
I mean,
I think he's talking about like the ranger.
In the words of Cabin in the Woods, they transgressed.
Hey, a killer can have two different kinds of revenge: a revenge against some ranger, and then a revenge for taking a dude's necklace. You don't take a gold necklace.
It's his mom's necklace.
That's his
Yeah,
mom's
screw
necklace.
you.
Well, and they like think of
That says
how
number
much
one
more,
motherfucker.
even in the little time that they gave. Think of how much more Johnny is fleshed out than even some of the best like slasher movie villains. Like they really do give you his backstory in like a very interesting way. It forces you to pay attention to the movie.
Oh my
And,
god!
like,
I have a big problem with this.
okay.
Thank you.
How
Are you gonna
dare
say,
you
I
make
think
me
you're gonna
pay
say my-
attention?
How dare you?
I don't mind the exposition.
I think you're
right?
gonna say my
the
big thing.
campfire scene is cool, right? And they're giving the exposition on
I mean,
Johnny.
it's nowhere near Candyman level of exposition.
I know what you're gonna
or Candyman 2019.
And I'm not meaning to be mean, but why did they pick the actor who, first off, he mumbles, second off, he has a very kind of thicker accent to give the exposition?
But they would jack up the prices like a motherfucker. Johnny's dad was the guy that ran these stores, and they hated him for it.
The campfire?
Yeah.
Oh, I picked up on that too. That drove me nuts. I was like, I can't.
We had to crank it up and then like put on the captions. We're like,
I
wait
thought
a
he
minute,
had
what?
a lisp for a second. So
We're
I
like,
was
what
like,
is
oh,
he
I don't wanna
talking
be
about?
mean.
I can't understand him. It's like we're trying to pick up on the important parts of Johnny.
Aaron was
Aaron,
good.
Yeah, I mean,
It
I
was hard
liked,
to listen to him sometimes because
Yeah.
I couldn't hear what he was saying sometimes, and maybe that's just on my bad ears. But like, dude, I couldn't.
I
pick
just
up on
thought
it.
he was the wrong character to give that exposition because of how he. I mean, listen,
he
I
paid the
got an
price.
accent.
He won't be talking very much anymore after catching a
I think John.
saw to the mouth.
Listen, Johnny was like, "Fuck you for giving this story like you did. I
Yeah.
gotta take away your mouth."
Yeah.
He knew how bad he told that story because even the other people were like snoring away.
Good story. Good goddamn story.
Like I was dead out of that story because of
I
how
was just-
him explaining
Listen,
it.
I was just so happy because here's one of the major tropes of a slasher movie that they innovated on. I didn't have to spend an hour and a half with teenagers I didn't care about. I didn't have to spend an hour where they're going to camp, everybody's getting together. Okay, oh, somebody wants to bang somebody else. Okay, all right. Oh, teenage hormones.
What do you got against people having sex?
Oh, da 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 da. It's like an hour and a half of a movie, and then the action starts.
Yeah, those are the
And
best
that's the
ones.
slasher trope that this movie fought against and won and innovated against. This is a step forward for slashers. It innovated against that, oh, everybody's got to, we got to hear about this guy. This one's the goofy one.
I have
this
some
one's
unfortunate news
Halloween
for you,
2
Mr.
kind of innovated
Bearclaw
that.
is that they made like 9 other Friday the 13th movies. that
And we're gonna watch
exactly what you're
all
talking
9.
about.
I liked.
We're gonna watch Freddy Goes to New York, and you're gonna love it.
I liked.
Freddy Goes to New York.
I haven't seen that one yet.
I don't think it's available really anywhere.
I liked how this campfire scene was shot, though. I was actually thinking because they kept going around to everybody. I was thinking Johnny was gonna show up like bam right there at one of the turns, but I liked how you could see him in the background.
Yeah, how
that
creepy was
that was
that?
cool. Again, the cinematography.
And the same thing when they're talking about like all they're freaked out, and it was kind of almost reminded me a little bit of Blair Witch, where they were talking about like, hey, there's this guy in the back of this picture. No, there isn't. That's just some smudge or something.
Be reasonable for once, Troy. I mean, what about the guy in the photo?
What fucking guy? It was just a shitty photo.
No, there's somebody watching us. There's somebody out there. Like, they don't know they're being hunted, but they've just got this inkling, and like, that's a person. Like, imagine if you took a picture with all your friends in the woods. And like, one thing that really resonated with me in this movie, and maybe it's because I spent a lot of time in the woods, is just like walking somewhere through the woods and like maybe being a little lost or not knowing precisely where you're going, and just how the quiet of the woods can kind of be terrifying at certain points.
It can get in your head.
It can get in your head.
Paranoia is a big thing.
Yeah, and I really liked how they didn't use any music, especially when he's walking. You hear the big, thick crunching all the time.
Yeah.
And
I
that-
also noticed that, like, in one scene, like, you can really tell the actor is really laying in the stops. He's
Yeah.
like, bang, bang.
You know what though? I will say this because I do want to talk about this a little bit. Is I think what really helps with this movie is I actually kind of feel for Johnny. Like this poor guy
Oh,
just
he's a
wants his
sympathetic
necklace,
character, for sure.
and these asshole kids just took his necklace and didn't care, and they're having fun.
I mean, you see him playing with the car, and there's
Yeah,
a
I was
whole
gonna
Yeah,
say
he's
that
like a little kid.
That was a good callback to the exposition story about them tricking him when he was a kid with the little cars up in the tower. So
Yeah,
that
like-
he-
and that added a lot of depth to him, I felt. And even him playing with the car was kind of like a moment of like sympathy for this zombie terror. That
And then he
is-
broke a girl's neck and,
and-
then shoved her through her own stomach.
Yeah,
and then
and
I
then
was like, yeah,
Predator-
you don't deserve any sympathy.
well, yeah.
Sympathy for the devil.
Let's talk about the kills because they were pretty good, right?
I mean, that was
Best part of the entire movie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of like for me, it was like walking, kill, walking, kill, walking.
Kill.
No, I mean
It's gonna
there
be the next song.
there-
Nathan, get it up.
there were some pretty innovative kills. The yoga one, threading the yoga girl there was pretty innovative, and the effects look pretty amazing. I mean,
I was gonna say this movie looked the blood and gore effects. I mean, oof.
I
it was too
gotta
much?
say, the yoga scene was cool, But man, oh man, I couldn't, like, that neck thing I hated.
Yeah, when
Oh,
the-
that was.
yeah.
I hated, I just can't. I can't with neck stuff. I liked it though. I really did. It was cool, but
that
I just,
When her neck split.
The vertebrae.
Yeah, the vertebrae.
protruding out the
that,
neck. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was terrible.
And here's my only
But it was
thing.
like, wow.
Yeah.
Why?
That's what I'm saying. Wow, the detail on that. Ugh.
Why when they, and you brought this up too, why when they are about to get killed, do the actors kind of just freeze up? Like they're getting ready for the,
Yoga girl kind of just resigned herself to getting like.
I would've-
She turned
I would've
around.
jumped.
She realized there was nowhere to go. And
Oh,
by that
I would have
time,
took my chances.
I would
and
have
rolled down
jumped.
that
I would have jumped.
I mean, yeah, but I
would've
mean,
broke
I don't
my
know.
legs, man.
And can we also say, like, just on some like less intellectual levels, like how cool is that fireman's mask? Like that, you see somebody coming towards
I
you
liked him
with
without the
that
mask.
and a hook and a friggin' hatchet.
Yeah,
and,
Logan
like,
liked his look better without the mask.
really, I liked his look
Well-
with the mask on because he looked like insect-like, like
I don't like-
inhuman, like.
I liked him until they showed his face.
Yeah,
And then they showed his
I
face
didn't like
and
them
they
showing his
ruined-
face. I liked
It's kind
him
of like
wearing the
Michael
mask.
Myers. Yeah, you don't show the face. Don't
I kind of like the face. I actually, because the face was when he was playing with the car, and it like, I don't
It
know.
wasn't needed.
It connected me to him more as the killer. Like, I don't want to say sympathize. I don't think that's the right word, but like, I don't know, just made him more of a character. But I think it was also cool that they like made, because here's the thing, he's a zombie at the end of the day. I think that's an important thing for a slasher movie to do, because if they don't add some type of supernatural element to things, I feel like it turns into like too much like Silence of the Lambs kind of situation, where it's like if there's no supernatural, I feel like it's more terrifying and you can't have as much fun. But if there is a supernatural element, which I think most slashers do for the most part, I think if there is a supernatural element, it's a little bit more, you're able to enjoy yourself a little bit more. I think it allows the viewer, or it certainly allows me to enjoy it a little bit more. I shouldn't speak generally, just with myself. It allows me to enjoy it a little bit more, knowing that it's like some fantasy story about some guy, you know, some evil
Then something
return
that
from
could
the
happen
dead.
in real
Then
life.
something that could, then
I-
Buffalo Bill like turning all the lights off in his house.
I think there's a couple ways to go with it, and like you said, I think a zombie supernatural element's one way to go. The other way to go, I think, is the mystery element, like who is the killer, like Scream does. You know what I mean? So
I like
and-
a good mystery.
Yeah.
No, it's just
But-
especially in the first one.
But like what Bearclaw is saying, it's because it's this fun element to the character. You're not
Yeah.
having an actual like serial killer.
Yeah, it's not a real person who's exists.
To go back to my point, I don't like the whole like. Do you remember that scene where that kid got an axe through the head and then like the other kid's like trying to like get away and he's like, no, stop. No, and then he just stops for like a second,
Yeah.
and
He
it's
picks
like,
up a big fucking rock and drops it on his head.
but he just
Splat.
he just stops. He just like the actor just stops, where he just like stops acting.
That one looks CG to me. I could be wrong, but hey, listen, again, if it is, who cares? I mean, it looked really good.
Yeah,
But I think the reason why they didn't make this movie for a lot of money, no matter what the budget is. So I think the cuts that they had where they kind of froze before their deaths is like the little like to stop for the action of the death or to put that prosthetic
I think it was for
situation on
prosthetics.
or whatever they had to do to make the gore effect. I think there was just a little freeze beforehand, which is just, you know, it's like an independent movie, but it did look weird, I think, especially for the girl doing yoga, but maybe like Dan said too, that was her just kind of accepting her fate.
that was some Sydney Sweeney acting. I'm just gonna say
No, it was
okay.
I think the kills were really good. What's his name? Aaron?
Hey, Aaron, where are you? Where is Aaron right now?
Aaron?
It's just Aaron. It's just Aaron.
Oh.
It's just spelled differently.
Spelled differently, yeah. Him getting, was it a hacksaw that went through?
It's like a tree saw. I don't know, but it's like a
Tree
tree
saw.
saw with two handles that you could really.
There's a similar one in the Jason franchise where he takes a belt and he like twists it. And
Yeah, it's the same. It's like different types of tree of saws. I know a lot about this stuff, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that
I know
was
a jigsaw.
speaking of weapons, right? What
Oh,
about
yeah.
the hooks? Did you guys like the
The
hooks?
hooks were awesome.
Dan's not so sure.
The hatchet was all. I like the hooks.
No cabin in the woods.
Oh, with that was like a bear trap on a
That was cool.
chain.
I
That
just
was
like
cool.
that. It was
Yeah.
cool. I gotta say though, if you got a good weapon, you're doing okay. You know, and this movie had a lot of good weapon usage.
Better
like-
than choosing the hedge trimmers.
Yeah, like, oh my god. We gotta go back. Like, how, dude, he had so much in his arsenal,
All
and he could
the
have
things
picked.
you could have chosen.
Yeah.
You choose the hedge trimmers.
And this dude's just a zombie, and he just picked up random crap and made it so much better.
Yeah. No, the hooks are just absolutely brutal. I mean,
He had an axe, like and it looked awesome, even though it's so basic.
I gotta ask a question. That scene where Johnny is across the lake and he sees the girls and he goes in the water. Did he walk all the way over there?
Yeah.
Oh, a la Jason Voorhees. yeah.
Okay.
yeah, just walked right over there.
I would have really liked it if, like, you could see him kind of in the water.
Walking in the bottom of the lake.
Just a little bit. Not like a full-on scene of it.
I think that's
but,
where
like,
you hit the budgetary pressures, because that's probably an expensive shot.
I know. Okay, maybe the second one they can do it. But the second one's going to be him in a shark tank.
Just put him. Yeah, I was gonna say, just put him in front of a giant fish tank.
The next movie will take place in an aquarium.
Oh man, I did like that though. I liked how we followed it for a little bit because you knew eventually he was gonna.
I
make
love
his
how you
way.
said, like, he's just walking or is he swimming? And I'm like, he's a zombie. How would he swim? Like,
he floats up.
hi, girls.
One of the things about like the walking scenes, and I don't know about you guys, but the way it's shot, like it always seems like he's walking in a straight line. And I'm just like, how does he run into these people if you're just walking in a linear direction?
I think it's one of those things where it's like, it's like in Dead by Daylight, how like the killer can by
the way, didn't you get a Dead by Daylight feel to this
yes,
too?
this had a very Dead by Daylight feel. Like I felt like the killer could see whoever had the necklace and like around them, and I was always like calling to him, kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
It's like a chastity belt situation.
Chastity belt. That was a record skip. I was like, wait a minute.
We'll go past that.
He's going back for his chastity belt. Oh no, poor Johnny.
Johnny, no.
He's a kid.
Oh my god. Yeah. How about the log killings or the log splitter scene? Because I thought this was a little drawn out, in my opinion.
Yeah, that hand.
It felt like a hat on top of a hat. You know what I mean? Like, all right, we're getting the log splitter. Like, you're going to dismember somebody with the log splitter. I think you get away with just doing the decapitation, and it's still
It took way too
provides
long.
the same
How many people?
effect.
I will throw this out there though, and this is going to be an unfair. How many people have used the log splitter here besides myself? Okay, maybe it's like a fear of like you see that thing splitting logs and like
I've seen it in action. It's impressive.
it's very impressive, but like you feel hydraulics and stuff. And in me, it's always been like like man, don't ever get your hand caught in there. So for me, that scene resonated a little bit more, but I'd understand only because I was like, no, I wonder what it would be like if somebody's head was chopped off with it. But I can understand where that scene wouldn't. I do see the hat on the hat comparison. I think that is actually a little fair in that scene.
I mean, I will say I have seen a hydraulic press in action, and those things scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, well, like a log splitter, it's just like this slow but constant, like just thing that just messes up a log.
Yeah. I thought he was kind of having this childish moment too of
Yeah.
like, let me put his hand.
Well, let's see how this
that
works.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try it with his head now. Yeah.
But I just thought, again, it was just a little too drawn out for me. But again, to your initial point, like, this is the movie that they want. Like, they want us in for the full ride, strapped in.
Yeah.
How about the ending? What are your thoughts on the ending?
I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, you gotta leave it a mystery to it. I think they did a good job with the whole car scene and the final girl there who gets out. We don't know a ton about the final girl, but in the context of this movie, I don't know how important it was, but You know, she runs through the night. She gets away from him. You know, we're always just we're sitting there just waiting for him to show back up again. And spoiler alerts here, he doesn't. She gets away because she gave up the necklace. The necklace was hanging over the gas can, and then it wasn't. Honestly, I think that's a perfect way to end the movie. Like, you know, leave him wanting more. I certainly wanted to know what happened to Johnny. The final girl, was she really going to get away, or was he going to pop out of the woods? And
should we talk about the ending? Because that ending is...
You like the ending or no?
Logan loved it.
Dude, I liked the analogy by the woman, but like, for like, I think a good 10 minutes, I was watching it with you, and you were basically going over different scenarios where you're like, oh, she's got to be related to Johnny. She's got to be some kind of situation.
I was definitely waiting for a twist.
And I was like, man, that would have been good.
Subverted expectations, though, with no twist.
Bearclaw, you got to
But here's the thing about that. You're waiting for something to happen, and it's just like 10 minutes of just this analogy. Like, the analogy's good and all, but like, oh my God, man. I was just like, let's get to the gas can. Like, let's get over this. Like, it's just so drawn out.
Brother was a game warden. Got mauled by a bear 30 years ago.
5 hours later.
What about the bear? Don't know. His team said that the bear was gone when they got there.
It's insane.
So my understanding is that they actually had something else in mind for an ending, but unfortunately, like, they weren't able to execute the effects the way they wanted to. There was time constraints. There was some sort of issue in which they could not end the movie in the way they wanted to, and so this was kind of the alternative way that they went about it. I don't like it, and I'm gonna save my opinion for our hook, line, and stinker segment.
Ooh,
wow. Oh, I wonder where that's gonna be.
Now, do you know who the woman was that picked up the final girl in the truck at the end?
No.
She is from Friday the 13th, Part 2. She's Vicky. Her real name is Lauren Marie Taylor.
Oh,
so
cool.
A little tie-in to
Was Vicky
Friday
the
13th.
final girl in 2?
She was not, no.
I got nothing, pal.
Bearclaw's right. It did subvert my expectations, the ending. I thought it was way too drawn out. But, in waiting for the twist, I was actually thinking at one point that this was all a mental breakdown and the final girl was actually the killer and killed all her friends. And then she was gonna kill.
And then Johnny was just
nice.
just some
I would
type of-
have hated that.
Yeah, and Johnny was just
that would have been right.
I think it should have just ended at the paranoia, and she's just walking down the road, or walking down to get a car, just like Johnny was walking, and you just have that camera shot her, and that's how that ends. And then you go back to the canister, and the necklace is gone. That's how.
You know what? I would have ended it with the juxtaposition of her running through the woods shot to Johnny walking through the woods, her walking through the woods, Johnny walking through the woods, and more and more and more cut. So we don't get that ending. But the ending we do get at the end where the woman gets out and she's going to help her wound.
I know you're scared. And you went through something out there, and I don't pretend to know what it was. But I have got to stop the bleeding in your leg.
Yeah, you can just picture Johnny's axe going into the back of her head or something.
And I did like that specific part of the ending, because there's the paranoid thing. You're looking in the woods. Where is he? The axe is coming. Where is it? I liked that part of it.
I liked the whole, watching her, she doesn't run into the woods and then it cuts. That's just one of the things I love about this movie. It stays with the character. That's terrifying. Running from something in the middle of the night, not knowing which direction you're going to, and only having the quiet of the forest, and running through the forest and hearing things and anything, and you're completely in an unsafe environment because Johnny could be coming out of anywhere.
I would have liked it if they kind of just ended it where you get that running sequence where she's running and daylight's coming up as she's running.
Yeah.
It gives you that holy shit, she literally has been running in a straight line for 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been cool if it somehow ended it on that, and then you get this black screen, and then it's just you hear Johnny's footstep.
A little tie into the Texas Chainsaw ending too.
And Michael Myers with the breathing,
with
heavy
the
breathing at the end.
Yeah.
Seeing
like
how,
that.
you know, his footsteps are his thing, whereas like Michael's is like the breathing. Jason's got the ha.
You brought up Michael Myers. There's going to be a sequel to In a Violent Nature. Do you think we have a new horror icon, Johnny? I mean, can you see this continue going?
Could be, they've already got a second one in the barrel. I mean, they're changing and innovating the slasher genre. So much to Logan's chagrin.
It's just another guy.
Well, I mean, like you said earlier, though, with the ceiling, this might have a ceiling unless they try something differently for the sequel.
If they try something new, we have to see what they do with the sequel. The sequel is very dependent on that whole thing for me. Like, if you can't break away from what this movie does and make something new, it's just the same as every other slasher.
I mean, that's kind of holding it. It's just the same as every other slasher. I mean, that's kind of holding it to a high standard, though. So a lot of the slashers, the sequels get significantly worse. I mean, in my limited experience, they kind of dip down and then kind of come back up after a little while. But depending on which one, but. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of the Friday the 13th movies.
I just think the formula is kind of things that ruined Halloween, for instance, where you start having to tell more and more.
Yeah.
No more. Yeah. No, you don't need to tell a backstory though
to make it work.
They've already told you the backstory. You don't need another backstory.
Yeah, but you can't just do the same thing, is what I'm saying. Like Dan said, you have to expand everything, so then it becomes.
Oh, he's got a sister.
Yeah, Johnny's got a sister.
And maybe they make it more of an anthology.
It was the girl that was that picked up the final girl at the end, and she was describing Johnny. What happened to Johnny?
Oh,
dun dun dun!
I think there's plenty of meat on the bone here. I think that they're going to go back to the well and find something interesting.
We're gonna find something real well. It's called the bottom of the Walmart bin. Welcome to the party, along with Friday the 13th, Part 15.
Logan's explained a couple movies that haven't existed yet, but I'm excited for him. Freddy Goes to New York.
Freddy Goes to New York.
Freddy Goes to New York? Okay.
I'm staying at the Ritz.
But Jason Goes to New York. Big success. Freddy Goes to New York, even bigger. See, that's how you evolve. You get another person in your...
Hello, I am Freddy, and you are my daughter.
Nightmare on Broadway.
Bringing it back to our Friday the 13th. Jesus, I'm getting the characters confused.
We should do a
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Leprechaun Goes to the Hood.
It's time for our favorite segment: Hook, Line, and Stinker. Now, our hook is our favorite kill of the movie. Our line is our favorite line or quote from the movie. Our stinker is something funny, stupid, or weird that happens in the movie that makes it either better or worse. My hook, I'm going to subvert the expectations here.
Whoa, bringing it back.
I'm going with Aaron. Aaron?
Aaron.
I don't know why I can't. I know, I'm an idiot. Aaron, getting the hacksaw or the tree saw to the mouth and kind of separating his head through the mouth there.
That was a good kill. Solid kill.
What I really enjoyed about this is he was listening to a Walkman. Yes, kids, a Walkman. Me, Bearclaw, and Dan all had Walkmans when we were younger.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the only music we hear in the movie, right? So you can hear that going on, faintly because he's listening through the headphones. Johnny kills him. And he drags his body with his head in the other hand all the way to the park ranger station. And then he throws his body through and his head right through the glass to get his mask. The music through that whole time is still faintly playing if you hear it. And then once he goes through the glass, it stops completely.
Also, I think they show like time passing as like the batteries in the Walkman have died out.
Oh yeah,
and the tempo
it starts slowing down. Yes. Yep.
My other question for you guys is, Do you think Johnny took Aaron along for the walk because he was like, these are some nice tunes. Like I could walk to this shit.
He's tired of just listening to nothing.
Yeah,
Crunching of the leaves.
I thought he was gonna go to the gas station to talk to those girls.
Wait, are you going to meet up with those gas station girls?
I legitimately thought he was. I thought he was
girls.
gonna be a dick about it and be like, okay, let's bring him to these girls. He wants to see these girls, and then just throws them right through the window.
Oh my goodness!
That would have been
no
awesome. That
line
would have
for
been my
this
hook
movie.
if he actually did that.
My stinker is too much walking. Holy shit! Too much.
Holy shit!
Too much. Dan, how about you?
All right. Well, hook. I mean, there's so many good ones in this movie. There's obviously one iconic scene, but I'm gonna go with our final dude's death, Colt's death. It reminds me of the Simpsons episode when Homer is impersonating Krusty the Clown and he beats up the Krusty burglar.
Yes.
And the kid in the crowd cries
Stop,
like, "Stop,
he's already
stop,
dead."
He's already dead.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
I said that.
Yeah. It's like, it almost feels like they had the Simpsons meme in mind when they did that.
Yeah. Oh, I love bringing that up every time.
My line is, there's no really verbal lines, it's a literary line, and it is number one motherfucker.
Oh,
On the neck, on Chuck's necklace.
and his hat.
And his hat. And for that, Chuck is definitely going into my Survivor Squad.
I was
he's
gonna say he's got to be in the Survivor Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So yeah.
except he got
The Hall is slain. The Hall is
Hall
slain.
slain. Except
he will definitely run face first into the killer for me, and I will happily accept his sacrifice.
And he'll run a merch thing for you too. Make you a little money on the side.
Yeah.
And you need someone to if Bear starts chasing you, just gotta be faster than the other guy, and that's why you have him for.
Yep.
And my stinker had kind of touched on it. We touched on it. The ending. I understand they had a big finale, as I said. One of my pet peeves is toxic positivity. And the woman who rescued our final girl to me is trying to like minimize what happened and brush it off. Like, you're going to be okay, kid. This happened to my brother and he turned out okay. You'll be okay too. If I just watched all my number one motherfuckers get pasted all over the woods, I would not be okay, nor do I think I ever would be okay. Or at least that woman's definition of okay. Like,
Yeah.
I hated the ending so much. It felt so tone deaf. And like, then, like you guys said, they subvert your expectation, which, like, again, it is a trope to have like the final like scare at the end of the movie. And they didn't do that. I don't like that. I don't like that they subverted the expectation and they leave you like anticipating something happening. And then it's just this lame epilogue. Bearclaw, what do you got?
All right. So for my hook, I have Colt as well as my hook, but for a different reason, because I love it every time the heroes come up with some carefully orchestrated plan, and then it just goes. It just goes sideways, and I love that. There's like Colt's like, okay, I'm gonna distract him, and just bam, axe to the face.
Come on, you ugly son of a bitch! We're right!
And just that whole like, wait, that wasn't part of the plan moment. Just really
pretty funny too.
He took so long too.
Really.
When Mike Tyson say, what was his famous line?
Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
And that's exactly what I like, is these characters clearly have no grit. They're trying, the only one with grit was the Ranger, and he's gone, so forget about that. They're going toe-to-toe with Johnny, and it's just like, I always love when there's like some like intricate plan that relies on a bunch of things, and I've always respected when brute force just tears that apart.
Wins every time.
Because sometimes you just need brute force. My line is, in the car, the lady with the car, animals don't get too hung up on reason. They just keep killing.
Bobby says, animals don't get too hung up on reason.
I like that line because it's kind of like Johnny. It kind of relates him back to the bear. The ending was a little bit, and getting into my stinker, the ending was a little bit of a stinker, I would say. It wasn't my favorite part of the movie. I thought the bit in the car with the story was a little bit on the nose. They could have used that exposition a little bit better. But I also think that the other part of this that is a little bit of a stinker is everybody talking about, no offense, Kevin, but like the walking in the woods and stuff, like that stuff is necessary in this movie, and I really feel like it is, because it shows the commitment and it keeps you with the main character regardless of the situation, which I think is kind of one of the points of the movie and part of the innovation of the movie. But that's me for hook, line, and stinker.
All right, Logan.
My hook is Aaron's death. I really liked it. It was cool. It was a cool death. I would also say I did like Colt's because of the whole stop it, he's already dead. It was very much like Halloween Kills, where that kid, what was his name? The kid that was dating Allison got like put through like the stairwell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forget his name.
He was the bullies kid from the, that they brought back.
Yeah, what was his name? Oh, well, it don't matter. He's dead.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. I think it was Lonnie's kid, right?
Yeah, Lonnie's kid, yeah.
Yeah. Who cares? He's dead.
That's what I said, and you gave me shit for it.
Whatever. But yeah, I did like Aaron's death because I liked the use of the weapon. It was really cool, and like I could tell like what they were gonna do with that, but I didn't know it was gonna be that like brutal, especially with like how he was using it. It was so violent and a violent nature. Line, I had nothing.
Yeah.
I did like the whole scene with like talking about it's just in their nature about the bear, but like I couldn't find like the full in-depth, like it's way too much. So I have a stinker in a bit. I do have a couple of stinkers.
All right.
So I have some honorable mentions here.
All right.
Because it's not on the level, but it's so good. What you said, the walking. So much walking. There was a lot of exposition, needless exposition that explained way too much. And also there was just like, it was just weird how they were like talking to each other. Like it wasn't like right.
The
like,
acting I didn't think was that good.
There were so many pedophile jokes.
In the minimal acting scenes between the characters, I didn't think the acting was that good. But again, it's a slasher movie. I don't need him to act. I need him to die.
I was going to say, you'll have to show me some of the other slasher Oscar performances.
That's why I can't knock it in this, because, you know, it is a.
I love how that kid was trying to leave, and it was like 4 minutes of them going back and forth, like, what are you doing? I'm going to take a shit. And he's like, oh, are you going to go talk to those girls at the gas station?
Fill me up, Aaron. Fill me up, Aaron.
Like, god damn it. It was just that back and forth. It was like, dude, just go already so we can get this kill. The other one was the actors freezing up before getting prosthetics for their kill. I think there was a lot of kills that were kind of off screen and they could have been cool. Like the number one motherfucker, like that dude should have. I feel like we barely got to see like the kill. And the girl underneath the water, like yes, it would have been expensive, but I would have liked to see a little bit more with that. I feel like we need more like of those off screen. I feel like that would have been cool. But my number one stinker has got to be the ending. It was just weird as hell, and I just didn't like it. It didn't feel right.
Gotcha. Now, honorable mentions. Are we all gonna say the hook to?
I mean, I think it goes without saying.
I mean, come on.
So the yoga girl.
All of us intentionally went out of our way to not make it.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, none of us said the hooks.
It's because of how
I mean, it really
gruesome it is.
It really caught my attention and hooked me on watching this movie.
It made him watch the movie. Like you literally like can't not like talk about it because it literally made us.
It was
view
the
this
literal.
movie.
It was the literal hook of.
I cannot imagine a death more gruesome than that.
Dude, well, get ready for Terrifier.
Ooh, teasing.
Yeah.
Teasing
there is a lot of, I would say, similarities between this movie and Terrifier in terms of gore.
Oh, that's gonna be good for me.
I think there's a lot of similarities to In a Violent Nature, definitely. And maybe that gets into what Bearclaw was saying about some of these slasher movies evolving into this new slasher.
No matter how everything tries, nothing can stay the same. This too shall pass. All things change, all things evolve, and you'll find that the most change comes like in the Friday the 13th movie and the birth of Jason, when you take things from the past and you try and bring them into the future, but you can never quite do it right, and you're always going to change something, and that's one of the hearts of innovation. And this movie is more deliberate innovation, but I think is a step forward for the slasher movie.
I thought you were gonna quote Metallica at first when you were like starting to go into your whole thing there. I thought there was a little bit.
Nothing else matters.
Yeah, nothing else matters.
We're on to our final rating.
They're gonna rate the movie. What will they rate the movie?
a survivor is in between. What was that?
Now, our final rating system is Killer. It's our highest rating. It's awesome. We highly recommend this movie and it is a must watch. Our Survivor is our middle tier, which it was a good movie we would probably recommend, and some rewatchability. The Victim, it is the lowest rating. It's a bad movie we do not recommend, and no rewatchability. For me, In a Violent Nature is a victim. And let me explain, because the way I rate my movies is different than these other gentlemen. I think that this movie is original. It does something different. I appreciate Bearclaw's takes on everything. And you've actually opened my eyes to some of this movie too, in, you know, the long drawn out walking scenes and why they're a necessary evil for this movie. I appreciate these movies because they're taking swings, and I do appreciate something different. In saying that though, I don't think what this movie does is good for me. Like, I don't appreciate it. And it's not a good watch. And I think the biggest thing for me is the rewatchability. Is this a movie I would want to rewatch again? And probably not. But I would say if I recommend this to people to watch, I think there is value to recommend a little bit. But you have to be a real horror connoisseur, I think. Because I think if you're just, average horror fan, this is gonna be
if you have like no horror experience, probably shouldn't watch this as your first one. You should get a little bit more, but maybe they'll like it.
Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, for me, that's why I have to rate it a victim. It's just, it comes down to the rewatchability, and if I think that I could like this movie, and I just don't. A lot of things I really find good and entertaining and interesting, but there's a lot I don't, and it's kind of the struggle for me. So I think it comes down to that rewatchability factor, and if I would want to rewatch this. So victim for me. Dan, how about you?
To your point, Kevin, this really was a hard movie, probably one of the hardest movies to rate, and it took me a while to get to here, but I am going to give this movie a killer.
Whoa.
It's not a perfect movie, and I did not like it initially on my first watch. The tempo was a huge issue for me, but after getting a couple of viewings in, it became less distracting, less noticeable, and I was able to enjoy the movie. To me, it's worth a watch. It offers absolutely nothing new in terms of storytelling and is a carbon copy of Friday the 13th, like to the T, down to we're going to have the killer go under the water and grab the person. We're going to have somebody get strangled or decapitated with a tree, like up against a tree. They did that too. A slow child wrongfully killed seeks revenge. The mother's locket is a reference to Mrs. Voorhees and Jason's connection to his mother. Like, there's just so much story is like just borrowed from Friday the 13th. However, it offers a unique watching experience, as it is a movie totally devoid of a musical score and relies heavily on ambient noise of Mother Nature and a unique camera perspective that puts you in the perspective of the killer. There are times in this movie where Johnny is walking with the behind-the-shoulder perspective, and it's like he's a video game character I'm controlling. The special effects are amazing, offering plenty of gross-out moments. Johnny has the iconography to be a memorable horror villain. He has a distinct look. He has a distinct kill. There's an uncanny nature about him. He has a distinct murder weapon. And the only thing that he doesn't have is a distinct theme, which, like, I don't know, I think those are the 5 things that you gotta, like, look into that would, give a horror villain some sort of longevity. And this dude, in Bearclaw, really did a good job of, like, dissecting him as a character, and it made me like him even more. Like the way he added like the human elements, he noticed some human elements about him throughout the movie. So like with all that said, like I said, I have to give it a killer, even though I do not think it's a perfect movie. I think it offers you something new, and it's kind of refreshing. It's a refresh of the genre in itself. I wouldn't say it's innovative, but it's a fresh coat of paint.
I like it. Bearclaw.
Well, I don't think there's going to be any surprises with me. I think this is a killer. I think it's both a criticism and an homage to the slasher genre. I think it does innovate. I think it innovates in some key ways. I think, you're right that it needs to have some of the tropes because otherwise it wouldn't be recognizable as a slasher. But at the same time, I think it works within those bounds to create something a little different. I don't, like I said, I don't think it's a radical departure by any stretch, but I think it is a departure nonetheless, and I think it is a step forward, and I think we're entering into, kind of what I believe to be a very big horror renaissance. There's a lot of interesting things going on in horror movies right now, and I don't know if anybody remembers the 2000s, but there was a stretch there that was that was a little rough when it came to horror. But
For sure. Remakes.
But I think we're kind of grown past that, and we're into an interesting renaissance. And I think this is part of that movement of elevated horror. So I'm gonna go with a killer for this one.
Nice. All right, Logan.
I think critics have helped a lot with like getting these movies kind of up in the air, because like I think a lot of these movies that are coming out, especially like the big one I got to talk about that I think is going to get a lot of buzz, is the Nosferatu movie.
Oh, yeah.
That movie looks absolutely amazing, but I'm not going off the trailer because we went to go see The Crow, and that was something else.
I think this is going to be a different movie.
This is going to be a different movie. It's got a great cast. For this movie, I cannot go past what I've already put down, and that is that it is a victim. At least for me. I think what I was doing a lot is I was talking a lot of bad about this movie. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the good that keeps it from going to the near bottom of my victims.
Bottom of the lake.
The bottom of the lake, along with the Leprechaun and Better Watch Out. Oh, God, it hurt me to say that movie. What I like about this movie is, yes, it is very refreshing. It doesn't feel like you are wasting your time. It feels like you're getting something new out of it. It doesn't feel like you're just in the same place each time. It's a different atmosphere. It gives you a very scary, like, undertone of, like, this psycho zombie, along with the paranoia of just being out in the middle of nowhere. The woods creates such a different atmosphere than any other camp movie, because a lot of those movies don't really go off of that. They make like, I hate to say it, but like Friday the 13th, to me, I hate the music as much as I love it, because like this movie makes it feel like Friday the 13th. It makes it look like such shit when it comes to the music. Like it ruins the kind of aesthetic that it should have. Like you should have a little bit more quiet than the loud like music and the building up of tension, because just the near silence of this movie really brings forth that suspense, and it builds you up to this kind of like big payoff. And that's where I leave off with the victim is, to me, there's no payoff. I don't feel satisfied. I feel like I'm kind of just there, like expecting more, and nothing ever happens. Like, yes, kills go on. It's very fun. It's very refreshing. Yes, it's very much all of this. And then we get to the ending and we see the necklace is gone, and it's all this cool, like, where is he kind of thing. But I don't care enough because the payoff didn't work. I didn't feel like I got enough out of these movie. I feel like I got ripped off a little bit. Like I didn't get enough from maybe it was the story, maybe it was the character of Johnny. I just felt like we needed more with that. We needed more of a payout, and I just didn't get that. The rewatchability for me is very low because of that. If I have a movie on my list and it has that kind of payoff, and I feel like I'm getting something towards the end, like it doesn't have to be happy. It doesn't have to be like any kind of like happy ending. It could be a terrible ending. It could be like something that really bad happens. But at least then I have something to go off of. Because for me, I don't have anything at the end of this. I just have that happened. It's a cool movie, but it's a victim.
Well, Nathan, our producer, also gave his rating as well. And he said, it's like the writer saw Under the Skin and said, hey, I should do that movie, except I'll replace all the stylish visuals and surreal atmosphere with generic slasher tropes and extreme gore effects. that look 40 years out of date. The pretzel yoga kill didn't save this snooze fest victim. And Under the Skin, I guess, is a movie I haven't seen.
Oh, it is weird.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
Yes, you have.
I
It's the
have?
one with Scarlett Johansson. She's an alien. She walks around naked most of the time, and she is like a succubus alien.
I feel like I would have seen that. No, I haven't.
You're the one that showed me that movie.
Was I?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, then maybe I did see it. I don't know. It must not have been that memorable.
It was clearly Nathan's point.
Well, we also asked you, our audience, what your thoughts were on In a Violent Nature. So let's check our Instagram, and that's at mouths.of.madness. Yasmin X Lynn. Love, it's a fresh take on a slasher film. I liked that they tried something different. Nick Babs, so much potential, but some of the kills were cool.
Didn't seem like a bad thing. That seemed like he was kind of going off the good.
Horror Savvy, Victim. What a bland movie. I get the interest with seeing through the point of view of the killer, but what a boring killer. Imagine watching Jaws and it's just a shark swimming for the majority of the flick. This could have been done right, and it's been done before. See Elijah Wood in Maniac remake for a great example of killer's point of view done right. You can't rely on a faceless killer alone. The other cast members need to carry the weight, and they didn't do that in this film. It's T. Ricci. I wanted to like it going in. I thought the backstory was interesting, and the killer looked badass. It was just so mind-numbingly slow, plodding through the woods the whole time with that silly mask. Then the switch to the girl in the woods ruined it for me. I can't believe there is a sequel in the works. Bring me the Axe Pod. Interesting idea, that one, but there's a very good reason that filmmakers don't follow the killer around for the entire movie. If you cut out all the scenes of Johnny stomping around in the woods, you're left with about 15 minutes of movie. The sudden shift to the final girl is ultimately meaningless because we don't know anything about her, since the victim pool in this movie is nothing but occasional shots of 20-something actors and muffled voices in the distant background. K_Scanlon653. Still need to check this one out. I hope you checked it out and then you listened to us.
Yeah, I hope you checked it out before we talked about it.
Thrift store archaeologist. There really wasn't enough substance to keep me interested. It was a victim status for me, but I'm glad people who've always waited for a slasher like this to finally come around, but it did nothing for me. CWDATB podcast. 0 out of 5 stars. Terrible, boring, slow. Need I say more?
Yeah, I think this kind of validates our assessment on why fans were not reviewers were not happy with it. Is just, tempo issues really.
Yeah, I think the tempo issues got a lot of people on this movie.
I will say though, Bearclaw, I think this was a great movie to pick for us to review because it brought up a lot of interesting discussions.
I appreciate the polarized nature of it too.
Yeah. Look at our ratings. None of us had a survivor rating on this. We were on complete opposite ends.
It was killer or victim.
Which is awesome. And again, it's okay to have opposite opinions on movies. That's what makes it fun, right?
Oh yeah, no, I could definitely. And to be clear, like I could see where somebody would say that this is boring or that there is, because I think if you saw this movie, and maybe this is just because of the world that I live in, that maybe I appreciate it a little bit more. I mean, watching a lot of horror movies and things, it has more context to me. But just standalone without like thinking about it or engaging with it, I could see where, on the face of it, it may not be the movie for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And we want to thank you all for your comments. We really appreciate getting them for these episodes.
I always want to hear back from everybody.
Yeah.
Now that does it for our review on In a Violent Nature, but we'll be back soon, and it's going to be the start of Madtober. We're going to be doing our episode on Terrifier 1 versus Terrifier 2.
But before then, I think we need to all close our eyes and start doing some of the stretches that we talked about at the beginning of the show.
We talked about. I didn't agree to this.
Yeah, no. Everybody everybody get into
Roll your yoga mat,
reverse yoga girl pretzel position.
Bearclaw, my elbow doesn't bend that way.
And okay, wait, no, just you got to just go with it. This is real yoga, so you're gonna feel some stretching and
weird.
I feel my vertebrae.
Oh wait! Oh God!
Logan,
oh no!
Logan, your vertebrae's popping out of your
All right,
back.
open your eyes. Okay, no, that's not the right. I gotta go, guys. All right, I'll catch you all later.
Back
Bye.
to the padded room with ya.